good evening. I'd like to call the meeting to order at 6 o'clock, and if everyone could join in the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. If we could please have roll call.
Jason Keogh.
Here.
Ashley Pasquale.
Here.
Robert Smith.
Here.
Chuck Vaughn.
Here.
Bart Wagner.
Here.
Scott Welty.
Here.
And Mark Zeef.
Here.
Thank you. And now is the time for the call to the public. And any members of the public wishing to address the board will just come up and state your name. If it's a matter regarding something on the agenda, then we can discuss it then too. Okay. Pardon me? If it's a topic that's on the agenda, we can have discussion about it. During the call to the public, the board won't be able to have back and forth discussion. Okay, and then we'll move on to approval of April 24th meeting minutes.
Motion to approve the minutes.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. And now we'll move on to the staff report.
Thank you. We've had 19 new summer volunteers aged 14 to 15 have completed the volunteer process and will be assisting with our summer programs. In that program last year, we had 16 teen volunteers. 3 of them have returned to volunteer again this year, and 6 of them were actually hired as staff. So it's been a very successful program, for a feeder program for us. The Elks Youth Program provided a fun day with free pizza and a dance party for the children in the after-school program on Thursday, April 27th. All summer program registration was held on Monday, May 15th. The Starline camp is currently full at 225, and the other camps are 60 to 75% full at this time. That day, in registrations, we brought in over $157,000 in registration fees in one day. So that was pretty amazing what we received. The recreation staff is in the process of hiring 57 new part-time staff for the summer programs. Relics and Rods donated $1,750 for our recreation programs. Staff training and campsite setup will begin May 30th. The junior lifeguards will begin June 7th with 20 participants. They will work with the fire department, AMR, and learn valuable life-saving skills. The pirate swim team will begin June 5th. The swim lessons during June will be Monday through Thursday, and there will be 2 sessions of those. Superhero training camp is June 13th from 5:30 to 7 p.m. It's basically, you get to pick which superstar or superhero you'd like to be and fly around in the bounce house. So it's kind of a fun activity for the kids. Summer open swim schedule will begin May 30th. That schedule will be Sunday through Friday, noon to 4 for open swim, and Saturday, noon to 5. A couple events going on in the community center this month. HPA's kindergarten graduation is May 25th. The Girl Scouts Father-Daughter Dance is June 2nd. The Association for Supportive Child Care Conference will be held June 10th. The Mojave County Probation Drug Court graduation is June 12th. The Havasu Community Health Foundation World Elder Abuse Awareness Day is June 15th. The Veterans Court Family Day is June 17th. And the Police Department Dispatch graduation is June 30th. And with that, I'll take any questions on the staff report.
Sorry, Mr. Keen, are you going over the budget later in the agenda?
Correct.
And do you know, you said that the registration for the summer camp, you talked about the revenue that brought in based on fees. Do you know off the top of your head how much of that camp is subsidized by the city? A rough percentage or no?
I believe youth programs are covered. We cover 20% of the cost.
And then the remainder is fees.
Correct.
Okay. Anyone else have any questions on the staff report? Okay, thank you. We'll move on to the Aquatic Center assessment update.
Not a whole lot here. We're kind of wrapping up some of those projects. The ozone system is in the final revision stage. The engineering department is going back and forth with the designer of that system. So a few little tweaks in that before that project is sent out to bid. And the natatorium HVAC study, the engineers will be on site in late June.
Any questions on that one?
You have a question? What's that study for?
Some of the air quality in the natatorium, ways to circulate the air better, get some of the humidity out of that
That's
area.
in the pool area?
Correct.
Any other questions? Okay. And the Trails Subcommittee report?
The Trails Subcommittee met on Wednesday, May 10th. They met early in the day with a gentleman named John Holman and his wife who came down from the Lake Mead area. He was instrumental in developing the River Mountain Loop Trail, which is near Lake Mead. It's a 34-mile, 10-foot wide paved trail through multiple jurisdictions. It was built in many phases, and they were interested in hearing some of the difficult pieces as well as ways that he found funding for much of that path. The concept of creating something similar or a path heading up the old 95 is kind of in the thought process, and it was interesting to hear some of his ideas and ways that he was able to get this path constructed. Again, the old Highway 95 is in a discussion of whose right of way is that true? Is it ADOT's? Is it the county? And that conversation is continuing as it's really hard to figure out who actually owns that right of way currently. Mary Van Roy reported on a meeting she had with Michael Gordon regarding the Havasu Riviera project and some of the trails that will be going through that property and the hopes to eventually as well connect all the way through Rotary Park. Priorities that were presented to the Parks and Recreation Advisory Board last year were discussed, and the progress on each of those. And those are all definitely moving forward. The next Trail Advisory meeting will be Wednesday, June 14th at 4 p.m. at the Aquatic Center. And that completes that report.
Any questions on the Trail Subcommittee? Yes, Member Vaughn?
Yeah, well, the gentleman that did the trail up in Lake Mead is on the Arizona side or Nevada side?
It's mostly on the Nevada side.
Mostly on the Nevada side, okay. And he says 34 miles. Is that what they're looking at for here, something that long?
I think some of the interest was for the cyclists to be able to cycle all the way up Old 95 as far as, I-40. Again, that's outside the city's jurisdiction, so it would be mostly a county project. But that's kind of just a concept they're drawing up.
So the one that we're looking at is basically just a bike trail, not a walking trail or hiking trail, or it would be used for both.
Correct. It would be a multi-use.
Okay.
Again, it's just an idea being tossed around, and what are some of the possibilities.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you. And we'll move into our public hearings, and the first is on a buddy bench presentation by Leanne McPherson. All right. Please come on up to the podium. Yeah, we'll hear the whole presentation first, and then we'll see if the board has some questions for you.
Well, my name is Leanne Roberts, and I'm with Girl Scout Troop 415, and we are working on a very special project right now, and that is our Bronze Award. And the Bronze Award is the highest award a Girl Scout junior can use, or can earn. And we just would like to present to you an idea in hopes that this is something that we can get going in our community. Go ahead.
Hi, I'm Allie from Girl Scout Troop 415, and we want to make a difference. Some kids don't have any friends because maybe they're scared no one will like them because they're from a different country or state and have not made any new friends yet. When a person sees a person sitting on a buddy bench, they can automatically tell someone needs a friend, and they don't care what's on the outside, they only care what's on the inside. The person that saw the person sitting on the buddy bench can go over to them and say, "Hey, want to play with me and be my friend?" We want to place a buddy bench at Jack Hardy Park by the playground, and we need your help, and we need you to help all those children with no one to play with that come with them to Jack Hardy Park. We need your permission to place that one life-changing opportunity by allowing us to place the buddy bench. It won't cost you a dime. Once that bench is placed, we plan to spread the word by placing a video on Facebook, telling our teachers and principals and friends at our schools about the buddy bench at Jack Hardy Park. But first we need you. Will you be our buddy?
This is a poem called Count on Me. It's true what they say, a true friend can go a long way. As I help you, you help me too. Please don't let go, I don't want to be a foe. I will sit here, there's no need to shed a tear. I will lend a hand on this bench while I use my friendship wrench. I will be here every holiday as I sit on this bench today.
So I have a couple pictures that I took of the buddy bench. The Kiwanis in Lake Havasu actually sponsored us, and it's a trek bench. They've got 55 of them placed here in Lake Havasu, and the specific one is just like the rest of the Kiwana benches. It says buddy bench on it, and we have a couple pictures of where we would like to place it. And then they drew a poster also.
This one is where we want to place it. And it's with all of us sitting where we want to place it, and this is the empty space of where we'd like to place the buddy bench. And then we also have a picture of the buddy bench and all of us sitting on it.
Just take the poster if you want. Maybe show so they can see it. And we thank you for your consideration.
Do we have?
I suppose a few of you know me, but I'm Myron Duchesne, and tonight I have my Kiwanis hat on. Kiwanis has been very much involved with the benches around town. They're one of those things that they're there, and you don't even realize how many we have around town. We have 55 of them. Out of the 55, about 35 have been transferred from wood or redwood to treks. There's two reasons for that. Obviously, with our heat and our dry environment, the wood doesn't last very long. Treks lasts for a long time, and it's very easy to keep clean, and it's not hot to sit on generally. So we have teamed up with the Girl Scouts to help them with this project. We are always looking, and this is something you might keep in mind, for another place for a bench. One of the things that I have as my pet peeve is when we put a bench close to a business and it's close to the front door and there's people who do nothing but sit and smoke on it. And if you find a bench that kind of got lost and disappeared, that's probably that bench. We don't put benches out for people to sit and, or that most of the time it's employees, sit and smoke with. We put benches out so people are waiting for someplace or just taking in the view like we are with Jack Hardy Park. So that's what we're trying to do with our benches around town. Second item is Jack Hardy Park is coming up on 25 years. Kiwanis started that park 25 years ago. And it'd be interesting for me to see if next year, in 2018, will be our anniversary, if we could come up with something that we could either help with or would be a lasting item for the park. It isn't today, but tomorrow, and I'd love to hear from you if there's an area over there at Jack Hardy that would be of help. Also, while you're thinking about it, think of another place, another park around where we could put another bench that would be worked, and we could have an ongoing partnership either with the city or the city and the Girl Scouts or whatever. We'd like to see more of these buddy benches. Thank you.
Thank you.
Question.
Yes, go ahead.
What's his name?
Sir, we have a question for you.
Were the current benches at Jack Hardy Park, are those being redone now, or I thought I heard they were?
They are Trex, but Trex has no tensile strength, and they've got a nice bow in them, and the city has tried to shore them up. But our budget is used up for this year. But come October, we will get that taken care of.
Mm-hmm. In that area, I think that's the same area where the pictures are, where they want to put the buddy bench.
It's the general area. It's the same park,
Same.
not in that area.
Oh, it's not in that square of
It's
seats.
further to the whatever.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
Again, a lot of times when we're trying to place these benches, we like to, number one, is there some shade there? Number two, is there a lot of activity to where folks can sit and watch their children? That's one of the areas that we try to do, and this is ideal for that.
Yeah. So these benches are already made.
Oh yes, it's sitting in my. It's
Okay.
You've seen the picture of it. It's only thing I need to do is put some feet on it. Okay. Any other questions?
Member Vaughn?
Yeah, the buddy benches up there, is this just a single bench, and what's the size of how many kids can sit on it?
The picture showed about, was it 4 of you? 4, yeah. 4 elementary aged kids on there.
Kids?
Yeah.
Okay. And this is by,
We have only one buddy bench at this point. To try and have.
And then they showed us an area where at Jack Hardy Park, there's a playground and there's a retaining wall that holds up one corner of it. And it looked like that was the area where they want to place this bench.
right. When I was on the ADA board, we redid that whole park as a handicap park. And that, so this is just another improvement to that park. Jack Hardy Park is an excellent park. It's great for the kids and for the parents, and it's kind of underutilized, I believe. But I got a picture. It just looks like a standard bench with the back and just the seats around the front. It's not like one kid. You remember the old, what they called love seats, where you had one person on one side and the other, and they sat there and talked to each other type thing? It's just a regular standard looking bench then?
Right.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. I think it'd be a great improvement to it, as
I
long as the
agree.
adults don't utilize it.
Any other questions? Any questions for the Girl Scouts?
One more question.
Okay.
Is the cost of the bench borne by the Kiwanis Club? And does the city install it?
Let's take the last part of that first. The installation is a matter of just getting it there. after it's there, it's self-supporting. And we watch these benches very carefully, and most everybody around, if they know that a bench needs some attention. We have had kids use these benches for jump, where they'll use their bikes and stand them on end or something and jump and bend them all apart. And we've had to replace them, but that's very little of that's going on. But as far as the cost is concerned, that is, this is a joint venture between Girl Scouts and Kiwanis. All the other benches are borne by Kiwanis, and Kiwanis will maintain them. So there is no cost to the city.
What I was wondering, do you tie them down to the cement where they
No.
can't tie?
No. They've got feet on them that are engineered to where they're wide enough that the bench can't tip over. That doesn't mean somebody couldn't tip them over, but of all the benches we have around town, and like I say, there's 55 of them, they all sit in the open, and I think out of all those, we have 3 of them that are tied down. And that's only because they tied them down, still put feet on them. And feet on them are a board this long. To answer your question?
Well, yeah, it's not for the support. I know a wide enough foot to support it, but I'm saying if they're taking and tip them on in, it would behoove you to put 4 things in the ground and tie it down, so they wouldn't be able to tip it on in.
Well, again, just because it happened once or twice doesn't mean it's an issue. You know, sometimes you can make we've tried tying them down, and quite frankly, when it's all said and done, it's more of a pain in the rear end when you go to replace them than it is a problem. And it hasn't been a problem. I don't see it being a problem. If it is, we can address it just by putting guides down.
Have you had any stolen?
Nope.
Okay.
That's good news. Thank you.
I'm sorry, in response to your question regarding the bench tipping over, where it is planned to be in the park is actually fairly close to the retaining wall. And so it's very unlikely that that would be a place that would be utilized by bicyclists, because on the other side you've got rock and such. It's not like by a sidewalk. Accessibility would be unlikely.
Thank you.
Yes. Anything else?
Any other questions? Is this something that requires some kind of recommendation, or?
I would like a recommendation from the board if this is a project that they would like for us to move forward with.
Does anyone want to make that recommendation?
I make a recommendation that I guess it has to go to the city council, but recommendation that the Parks and Recs approve the installation of the buddy bench.
Is that?
That would be fine. And Chuck, we wouldn't actually have to take this one to council. We can do it ourselves.
Do we need someone like to second that recommendation?
I'll second it.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Welty.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And I'd like to thank the Girl Scouts. What a great presentation, what a great idea, and very nice to see you involved with something like this. Good job, guys.
Do you still have the poster handy? I couldn't see it over the podium. I'm a little short back here. That's great. Well done. Very nice. Thank you. Any other discussion?
I'd like to give an applause to the Girl Scouts too.
Sure. All right. Do we have to vote on that? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Can't wait to see it. Next, we'll move on to fiscal year 17-18 proposed budget summary.
Okay. So our budget has been prepared and delivered to council, and they've had an opportunity to respond to some areas, and some recommendations were taken into account and brought back to council. So really kind of bringing to you today just a concept, or the proposed budget that was presented to council. Just a couple notes before we dig into the actual numbers that you see in front of you. Some of the positive trends for fiscal year 2017-2018 in the overall city budget. The Havasu Riviera development, including a new state park, is in progress. The Downtown Catalyst project, Vision 2020 projects, such as a new eco-environmental learning center, the city's investment in new playing fields and new recreation facilities. There's a Holiday Inn Express and Suites and English Village improvements. With a lot of our positive trends for the next few years, obviously there becomes also some challenges. We did have Tabitha Miller, our finance director, present to you the expenditure limitation, which is obviously a major hurdle for us to overcome. Employee health care increases, the minimum wage law and part-time sick leave, as well as the public safety personnel retirement system. The funding for that is definitely increased as well. So we're definitely running into some hurdles. So the department's requested budgets, we were asked to reduce those all by a total of $3 million between all the departments. So the budget was presented to council as a balanced budget, so we were able to meet those requests. I've given you a copy of the Community Services Department budget, which is the budget I oversee. As you can see in there, there are some significant changes and cutbacks in certain areas. Many of those areas were really tidying up our budget. There were still some budget numbers in there and programs that we no longer offer. One is Spring Frenzy. That is a program that has gone away. A couple other ones were projects that future projects to be funded. Carpet in the community center, we decided to postpone for a couple more years. We can get by with the carpet that's there. New bars for the community center during events. The portable bars that we do have are, again, still usable. So we were able to make some cutbacks and tidy up our budget the way it is. One of the biggest, I don't even want to call it a cut because the program isn't going away. We're working with turning Teen Break back over to the public. We're working with an organization called CYR currently to have them more involved in the program. They're a founding partner in the program. They've also volunteered every year with that program. So we're in discussions with them on them actually running the event, and we will be there to assist in it. It does take a big chunk of money out of our expenditures. So that's kind of the big one that, again, has gained some popularity as well of jumping on board too. But with those savings during that spring break time, what we're proposing is that we will actually run a youth camp for the kids that can't be left home alone and their parents still need to work and not take that week off. We found that this is an area that we're missing in the community, and to be able to offer that camp during that week, as well as, again, still assist in the teen break program, we're going to hopefully be able to have the best of both worlds there. So those are kind of the big chunks of money that you see taken out of those our budget there. With that, I'll take any questions.
The city council will approve the budget in June.
That is correct, and
Okay.
will be effective July 1st.
Okay, so what are the questions?
Just questions on your part-time salaries. Is that just increase in hourly wages?
Correct, with minimum wage going up, that's the increase you see there. The hours, the number of hours are still current, are staying the same.
And it looked like your biggest cut was outside contracts. What did that include?
Correct. The main thing that included was our teen break contracts.
Okay.
Other questions? Member Vaughn?
What was it, Teen Break, that you're going to have that private company that was involved in it anyway, run it more? Does that mean they'll be hiring the people to volunteer, not volunteer, but to work it and stuff like that instead of the city being involved in all that?
That is correct. I'm sure they will pay some as well as get as many volunteers as they can to help run that.
And not seeing the budget, I can't see it, but how much of a savings are we going to utilize with that?
Just from Teen Break, it's almost $80,000. The total budget reduction from fiscal year 16-17 to 17-18 is approximately $470,000. But there's many things in that, some of the debt that we've issued, as well as some capital projects that we're postponing.
And the part that you stated that the $3 million reduction is over all the division. How many divisions are they talking, like the police department, fire department, Parks and Rec?
Yes,
everything
that's in the general fund, yes.
Everything's in the general fund. So how much of a percentage of that $3 million did Park and Rec have to come up with?
You're testing me on my math skills here. I want to say that's what, 10%, roughly? Just under 10%.
So it's about 300,000.
Correct.
Okay. Our revenues are up, but we're on a spending limitation.
Correct. That is
because of the law.
Correct. That's a big hindrance to our budget currently.
And the 80,000 that we're saving, we're going to put into a daycare camp. Is that what's basically it's going to be?
We're going to utilize a portion of that. It won't cost the entire dollar figure to run the camp for that week. But yes, it'll be for more the elementary age students.
And the rest of the money is what we are losing, putting into the 300,000 that we're cutting from the budget.
Correct.
Okay. Okay.
The spring break camp idea, would that be similar to the winter break camp at the aquatic center?
Exactly.
Or community center?
And if it grows, then we'll see if we can utilize a school for that camp, depending on numbers.
Now, at our last meeting, we had a long discussion on prioritizing projects. Was that taken into consideration for this proposed budget?
Yes, we used our priority-based budgeting for a lot of this project, and where we can make cuts that aren't necessarily felt by the consumer.
Okay. Other questions?
I got one more. Did the Island Trail ever get into discussion?
It's been in several discussions. Where it has last stood was the city is currently in negotiations of that right of way, and once we attain the right of way, then the possibility of altering that path slightly so that all of it fits in the right of way, and then we would be the ones really to be maintaining it. So yes, it's been in several discussions.
Other questions?
So basically, the Island Trail, they don't really want to do much improvement until because the more you improve it, the more the state wants for it. Basically,
it's hard to put dollars onto a piece of property we don't currently own.
Yeah, but the state knows what they want for it. Correct.
That is correct.
And it's probably more than what it's worth.
That I'm not sure of.
Any other questions on the proposed budget? Were you looking for more from us?
No, that was just to give it to you guys so you kind of know what's going on. If you hear comments or anything that you have a little background, and if you want to send them to us, please feel free.
Could you explain was it CYR, the agency?
It's the Christian Youth Workers Roundtable. And it's a nonprofit group here in town made up of several of the churches. I actually have a meeting with them tomorrow to further discuss this. And there may be other organizations that get involved as well and to make it a true community event.
You're confident that it will continue to happen?
Yes, currently am.
Okay, then thank you.
Nope.
Oh,
one more.
yes.
What was the biggest, how can I say this? Not expense, but what was the biggest amount of money in the budget, our budget, that, the top 2 or 3, whatever, costs of our budget for this next fiscal year? Projects.
Oh, project-wise?
Yeah,
Well,
I know employee expenses and stuff like that's more, but
Yeah.
Project-wise.
Project-wise will definitely be Cypress Park, and then the advancements into Sarah.
Great segue. Next up is capital improvement projects update. Oh, I'm sorry, I jumped over and it was unintentional. Revenue, it would have been. Revenue generating ideas discussion.
So at our last meeting, some ideas were thrown out as far as some ways to create revenue, as well as what are some of the limitations that we have in creating that revenue. One, we just presented in the budget there of the spending limitation really does kind of hold everything back a little bit for a couple years. The idea is to take that to the voters in 2018 to be available. Then, if the voters would pass a measure to alter that, that would take effect July of 2019. So that would enable the city to actually spend a little bit more money and be able to work on some different programs and ideas. Another one, and I'll use the bike example. We try not to compete with private entities in the city, and there are several bike shops that do rent bicycles in town, and we wouldn't want to be in competition with a local business person running their business and creating their living. So there's a couple of the restrictions that we do have on how we're moving forward. And I also want to make this clear to everybody on the board as well as to the public that might be watching on TV, because Mary's back there. Anytime anyone has an idea, it doesn't necessarily have to come in front of the advisory board. You guys can bring it to me. We can research it, whether or not it's something feasible for Lake Havasu City, and then we can bring a more polished, finished project to the board if that's something we want to look forward to moving forward with.
My only, I guess, suggestion, but I think that's missing both at Rotary Park and London Bridge Beach is some kind of concession, which I think both could do in either a food, beach rental items, paddling storage, or anything like that. But I think they're both very open to have such facilities.
And I know the jet ski rental place at London Bridge Beach is bringing in some food trucks that will be, I think, located where the old Burger Shack was. So there will be some food service on that side. I know the city manager's ultimate vision would be to have some as well at Rotary Park where the old RC cars were. So it's definitely in the thought process.
Other questions from the board? Member Vaughn?
Is the city in favor or against, or have any opinion on a sponsorship like they do with stadiums and stuff like that, like the nature center they're going to put in? If they could get a Walmart or something like that to donate, like it would be the Walmart Havasu Nature Center or whatever, something like that. And does any donations like that count against our limitations?
It really depends on how it's donated. If it's through grants, then it wouldn't necessarily be part of that expenditure limitation. The city we are in some conversations regarding naming rights and how those could go and would go. There is some opportunity there. We want to clarify some of the language in offering those, as far as, time limits and just because you donated $40,000, does that mean that that's going to be named for you for the rest of its existence? So there are definitely some areas that we are working through there, but it is in discussions.
Like I had suggested on that bike path out there, and I'm sure they wouldn't want to do it if they acquire it, but get some, like, this is just a suggestion, like the Walmart bike path, or like this section would be Chagrew's. You'd have a sign there, from here to the next mile is Chagrew's mile, or something like that.
Mr. Keen, are you saying that the city currently doesn't have a policy or standard on naming rights?
I think we have one. It's just written a long time ago, and they're looking to polish it up.
Mr. Keen, Mark Zeef. So some of these ideas I have for revenue generating, kayak paddleboard storage down at Rotary and London Bridge Beach, I think would be really affordable to put in. Something that we could probably go to outside enterprises for donations. I don't know what you have in the budget for that, how long it would take to pass that, but I'd like to see stuff get done the sooner the faster, because people are out there every weekend looking for concessions, which can double as amenities, not food concessions, but lockers, and storage for kayaks. It's a real popular sport, paddleboards. If you had a 10 paddleboard system, 5 on each side, or 10 kayaks, and you charged an average person of $50 a month, they can pay the rec department directly, the aquatic center office, for some kind of code or lock, and you could generate $600 to $1,200 a month off each locker system. And the people could buy that biannually and annually, so it obligates them to a year or month to month, or whatever the board likes. So I'd like to push forward on that, because
Well, Mark,
what are your thoughts?
Why don't we have a conversation, and then if that's something that we feel we could kind of polish up, and then we could bring back to the board an actual plan of something to see if they would be in favor of that.
Okay, cool. One more thing. The bike rental thing, I agree with that. You don't want to compete with the local businesses, makes sense. One more topic for revenue generating ideas would be a recreational sports pass that we can kind of transform some of the things that Lake Havasu offers free that cost us money to maintain, the city. The baseball, Sarah Park, has a lot of venues over there that you can include with the pass. Bocce ball, we could do frisbee golf courses with a pass, cheap, affordable things. So I don't know if that would be going to you for that or not, for a recreational pass for the Parks and Rec District.
Yeah, again, let's have that conversation, and then,
okay,
if we can come up with an ultimate plan, then bring back.
And then one more idea I had, which is just, shooting for the stars here. Might coincide with the sports complex at Sarah Park, but I thought it'd be neat to have a Sarah Park gondola ride or a chairlift ride from the bathrooms to the top for the people who can't access it, the people who can't walk anymore in life, the people who pay a lot for us to have a good time. I think it'd be neat to show us respect towards our elders and give them handicapped access to the top of Sarah Park. It'd be something that people would come and visit, and could possibly, if done right, could generate millions of dollars, like Palm Springs Gondola, for instance, is a success. We would be on a smaller scale, of course, but go see the bridge, go take your ride up the gondola, see you next vacation.
while I don't disagree, there are a few hurdles there. One, again, being the spending limitation. A gondola is not cheap to put in.
Right.
And the second being we don't own most of Sarah Park, or that part of Sarah Park.
Okay.
That would be putting something on BLM land, and I'm not so sure they would be open to that idea. But
All right.
But definitely, I like the ideas. I like the enthusiasm. So again, let's maybe
we'll
you
get
and I
together.
get together.
Okay,
go
cool.
over some things.
Could I request as part of that brainstorming when it's brought back to the board, can you also explain how that would work within the spending limitation? So, because I'm just thinking, is that considered generating revenue that then we wouldn't be able to use? Or is there a fee for service that just goes into the maintenance of that area?
Correct. If we increased our revenues, they simply will sit. We cannot spend those dollars until the spending limitation is lifted. And as part of that plan, I would want to bring back, okay, what are true dollars? Shooting for the stars. I want to know actual numbers of what is it going to cost, and that would be what I would like to present back if that's something that we would move forward with. It's not just, okay, let's go spend $1 million, or we don't know what it's going to cost, but we think this idea is cool.
Even to maintain the park area that, for example, the storage, if people are paying a minimal rental fee to at least maintain that area, just if that could be included in the idea generation.
Certainly.
Other questions?
No, I have one more thing to say. This might be under future agenda items, but I'm thinking the more I look at the situation the city's in with not being able to spend its money, I'm wondering, when we had talked to the financial lady at our last meeting, I think she had said something, if we had split up into the Parks and Recreation, become a district of its own, it can free up the ability to spend its money. Is that correct?
There are ways to create special districts. The grass isn't always greener on the other side when you do that. There's lots of other restrictions that you run into. First, that would have to be a voter initiative. It would be a long process to get that created. You would have to have a separate board. There's lots of other details, but that is a possibility. The city has talked, or we have talked about several different ideas of ways to create something similar to the IDD, the Irrigation and Drainage District, that is there, of replacing that with something different, as our finance director had talked about. So it's out there as an idea. I can't say that they're gaining a whole lot of traction right now.
I think now that it's been brought to the board's attention, maybe we should, bring it up into discussions more often, like the Island Bike Path, because it ultimately would free up, having its own district would free up its ability to spend its own budget, right?
It would also remove a lot of subsidy. So we would have to be taxing the public higher on
Correct.
that,
Right.
on that portion.
And the city what's the percent the city's taxes here right now? 6% maybe? Or is it 9%? No one knows.
I'm not
So,
exactly sure.
We can step up to the future and pay with some other cities who have fantastic programs. I don't think it's a bad idea. I think, hearing that you guys got your hands tied to spend all this money that's sitting in accounts, and that you might not have an answer for a year, that people got to vote on it in 2018, that pushes every single thing that the Parks and Rec wants to do for 2 more years or longer.
Well, we are still doing a lot. We're creating Cypress Park and renovating Sarah Park, which is to the tune of almost $19-20 million. So there's still definitely some projects going forward.
And I just want to remind the board that most of the people that come to visit Havasu don't go to Cypress Park. Spending money where it needs to be spent is better, in my opinion, for the future of the city. That's all. But otherwise, I'm in agreement.
Any other questions or comments on this discussion?
Me?
And it is a public hearing, so we can open it up to the public.
This is
No,
Mary
did you
Van
see me?
Roy.
Oh.
Oh.
I wasn't going to speak about this now, but at our trail meeting, these are the things that we talk about. And public-private partnerships, as we've been talking to Stephen Moss, how he gets things done up in Mojave Valley. And this is all future thoughts, but we can work when you're talking about bringing in donations or something, but that would be very helpful to get some projects done. It would take a long time. The other one was, I can send out some emails to all of you that we've sent out to our trail committee. Coconino County with their 1/8 of a cent sales tax, not sales tax, or is it a sales tax? But anyway, the Cataract Lake where we stay for the summers, that's money that was spent from that tax. And then Washington County, a friend of mine lives up in St. George, and she says they have that little bit that they do too, but theirs is called Parks, Trails, and Arts. In Coconino County, it's more parks, trails, and they purchase land like wetlands and that sort of thing. So they have bigger projects than what we're talking about. There's ways of, and working with the county, obviously our old 95 right away, that would be something, would have to be, the city would be the part of it in Desert Hills, and then from there it would go into the county, and it might be BLM, it might be ADOT, we're not sure what it is now. But we should be getting an answer back from ADOT. We already know from the county that they didn't accept it. It was abandoned in 1980. We have all that paperwork. It's been abandoned, but nobody will take responsibility for it. So we're all working on all that stuff. But I think definitely we can find sources of income or ways to get some projects done, hopefully in the next few years. And I think we can look at all the options so that we can fall back on whatever works for us. So I don't know if you'd like me to send you some of that information we've been sharing with our group. I can pass that on.
Thank you. Yes, Member Vaughn.
I'd like to see a few more things utilized. Like, I was just thinking that 6-acre parcel that we bought from the state for the island side of the new bridge. Well, the new bridge ain't going to go in for years. So why can't we have something like, and I think it'd be great, they did it during the Balloon Fest, try to get a concessionaire here that would do tethered balloon rides, you know, right there from that point, you know, do a year-to-year lease or whatever to them till we get ready to put the bridge in, and get a percentage of the sales. You know, he can do his limited hours, like morning and evening at during the summer, and then more hours during the winter when more snowbirds are here and stuff. But if they seen a tethered balloon ride here, you wouldn't, people just going, and it's pretty close, you could see it from 95, you know, and through the city, and have something like that set up. Find somebody that, I know that one guy here does balloon rides, you know, morning and afternoon stuff, but he does real balloon rides. But this would be a tethered balloon ride, like an attraction type thing. And it could utilize that piece of property that we have sitting there doing nothing, and possibly making a little money off of it. And the other question I had was, you were talking about the kayak and paddleboard guy that's on the London Bridge beach side, and that was thinking about getting some food trucks in there. Is that's, I know that's private land, I think, where that used to be, where they had that.
Yes, it is private
that
land.
thing. That's private land.
Yes, owned by the hotel, I believe.
Right. Is that, say like he brings it in, he gets the guys to come in and stuff like that. The city would make sure that they charge the sales tax.
Correct.
And that.
Business license, sales tax.
And get permits and permit fees and stuff like that.
Correct.
To be there. Okay. And the same with Rotary Park.
Yes, it would be.
Okay. But I'd like to see some, you know, a little bit more like concessionaire type stuff, where the city would get like a percentage plus the sales tax, and if it's leased on city property.
Sure. And Chuck, if you have those ideas again, please stop by and talk to me. We can kind of hash out some of this stuff.
Okay.
Thanks.
Any other comments on this discussion? Okay, thank you. So now we'll move on to the capital improvement projects update.
We had a mandatory pre-bid meeting for Cypress Park this morning. There were 15 people in attendance, and from what I could gather, about 8 different companies that came to the pre-bid meeting. We're not really sure if they were all general contractors or if some of them were subcontractors that are interested in pieces of the project, but it was good to see that much interest in bidding for that project. Those bids are due June 16th and will be awarded by council in July, with construction starting shortly after. The sports complex is still, the scope is in negotiation for design, and the budget for doing the design work of that project is actually in 2017-2018 budget, so that we really can't move forward a whole lot until July 1st on that project, but they are negotiating with a couple companies on the design work. And that's what I have on those 2 projects.
There we go. Any questions? Member Vaughn? Yes.
Am I back on? No.
There you go.
On the Cypress project, the bids that will be coming in, will that be for like a general contractor that's going to do everything, the landscaping, the dirt work, or would like a electrical company come in and say, I'll do the electrical for this much? Or will a general handle all that?
We'll have a general oversee the entire project, and then traditionally they sub out some of that work, so they might have an electrical contractor or a landscape contractor, but they're responsible for those contracts. We just work with the general contractor.
Okay, so the bids won't be for specific things. It'll be just the whole general bid, and then he'll take care of everything else.
Correct.
Okay.
It will be broken down in the bid process, but it will be an overall bid.
And is there any point in the next phase of that project that the board would be reviewing or having input?
I will bring either Jeremy or Greg once we do get the overall bids, and so that everybody does get to see that, whether or not that's before council meeting or slightly thereafter, just kind of see who was awarded it or what are those bids going forward.
I just remember there was some discussion about the request for bids and was an all-in request, and that there may need to be some items pulled out depending on what comes back. And so I was just wondering what kind of input will be included and which items are pulled.
A lot of that will be, and the possibility of bringing it back here, sure, if what those bids come back on are where we do need to make some cuts, but the direction from council as well.
Any other comments or questions? Member Vaughn?
Would the bids be due July or June 16th, you said?
Correct.
Okay. And they'll be open right after that. When do you see actual construction starting on it?
If the project is awarded in July, I would see dirt being moved as early as August.
Okay. And did you have anybody, this was just for contractors and stuff like that. This is not for, that wasn't for public people to complain about lights or anything like that, right?
No, it was not.
Okay.
Any other comments or questions? Okay, thank you. Now we're at future agenda items.
I have a future agenda item, just wondering, there's probably a reason behind it, but why isn't there a dog park on Rotary side for people who don't want to go over to the island? I don't see any place I could walk my dog.
Rotary Park is actually, we do not allow dogs in Rotary Park. Yep. It is the one park that we've set aside as no dogs allowed.
Is there a place or we can put a dog park on the mainland side so it's not just on the island? Somewhere by Body Beach, between Body Beach and Rotary Park, or between the skate park and Body Beach? Anything?
I think that defeats the purpose of having a dog-free park. I think we could get some complaints regarding allowing dogs in a portion.
Well, it's got to be fenced-in area for the, you know, the code, the city code, no matter what, where you put your dog park, it's got to be fenced in. I just don't see any other choices for me. I've got Jack Hardy. Cypress isn't fenced all the way. Sarah Park.
We have a dog park at Sarah Park, and we have a dog park at Avalon as well.
Okay, so I have a dog that's small and a dog that's large. And at Sarah Park, it doesn't work for me. These are just, you know, my situations, my personal stuff I deal with every day while living in this beautiful area. I have nowhere to walk my dogs besides the Lions Park, dog park on the Lake Havasu State Beach. Is there any other place that I'm not finding, or is Jack Hardy even got a dog park that's fenced in?
No, it does not. Avalon and
it's getting smaller.
And Sarah have fenced-in dog parks,
So
as well as
we
the
have
London Bridge Beach.
We have the two at Sarah Park and then the one on the island.
And Avalon as well.
Oh, Avalon. It's over by Nico's. So would that consist of 3? Okay. So I just pushed that maybe we can look into ways of maybe growing another dog park in the area that wouldn't cost us a lot of money, and maybe we can get like the Eagles or the Elks Lodge to pay for that one versus, you know, Lions Club's got theirs. We could find another entity over time. No hurry, but just something an agenda for the future.
Any other ideas? In a future trails subcommittee report, I know we had that prioritized list a while ago, and maybe we could, if we could get that list and kind of this is what has been done with this and this, and if there's a new prioritized list on that or something, just an update on that, because it seems like things are coming up, and I can't remember what was on that original list.
Certainly, we can get that out to you.
I have one thing. I made the request several months ago about learning more about how we collaborate with other entities, the county, the state, BLM, and Mary mentioned it when she came up and talked. And I'm wondering if a presentation like that is available, if we could come up, or if we could talk about something that would allow us to start working to build those relationships or strengthen those relationships. It seems like a lot of the topics we discuss deal with challenges because there are other entities involved. So I'm just wondering if there's a way if there's something we can do to help to help bridge that gap.
Good idea.
Other ideas for future agendas, topics?
You know, I don't know if this future agenda or not, but you know, there's a state police facility over here, or the police facility. There's a little oval walkway, which is beautiful. I was wondering, is there a way to cut down some of the overgrowth facing the lake from the actual walking path? Who's in charge of that? Does it get done? And that might not be an appropriate
I can't picture
outlet for that question. Where? What's the name of it?
Contact point.
Oh yeah, contact point. I think it'd be a neat way to, you know, give us the feeling of waterfront walking if we just kind of mowed down. And there's a new pier there. I've noticed that they have been clearing some willows or whatever. Maybe it's not a willow, but the overgrowth. I thought it'd be neat, and if we can do something like that. I don't know if that's our area or what, or is that BLM, or
I'm not sure.
This might not.
I don't know who that lease is through.
Okay.
Maybe if it's something could
It's
be
not
looked
Parks and
into,
Rec.
and if it is part of a discussion, then we can have it.
Bring it forward, sure.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Other topics? Okay. Next meeting? June?
Next meeting is June 26th, and it will be here at the council chambers.
Okay. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second it.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? We're adjourned. Thank you.